You're listening to the Weekly Wrap-Up on Sprott Money News.
Happy Friday from Sprott Money News at SprottMoney.com. It's time for your weekly wrap-up here on August the 7th, 2020. I'm your host, Craig Hemke, and joining us, as usual, this fine summer Friday is Eric Sprott. Eric, good morning.
Hey, Craig. A very, very incredible week so far. Huge things happening in silver here. We're going to get it really deep into it and try to let people know where this thing goes, and it is not going to be small.
I agree. All right, we have some very interesting times ahead, a lot of stuff to discuss, and we are going to talk a lot about silver today, and we're going to focus on silver this month with our Ask the Expert segment, too. You know, once a month we bring in an industry expert, and we ask them your questions. This month, the expert will be David Morgan of the Morgan Report. David's devoted basically his whole life to following silver, so as you might imagine, he'll have some strong opinions and some excellent insights. If you have questions for David, we'll record that in about 2 weeks. Send them to us at the word submissions at SprottMoney.com. Eric, it has been some kind of week. Silver's up about $3.50 as we speak on the week. Gold's up about $70. Some of the mining shares are kind of lagging here as we come to the end of earnings season, so I'd like you to talk about that too. But overall, what are your impressions about where we stand here this morning?
Sure. Well, maybe I can just dismiss with the economy. I normally talk about the economy. We had a jobs number today, 1.7 million. We had initial claims 1.1 or 2 million. That's almost like a saw-off. The jobs numbers are not strong, okay? That's all I can say. And we have an economy that the V is getting a little wobbly on the right-hand side, so enough said on that. Let's deal with the most important data that we had last week. Unfortunately for our listeners, this data came out at 3:30 in the afternoon on Friday, and it was the Commitment of Traders report that basically suggested that the commercials were buyers of gold and silver at nice, big, fat losses for the first time ever in probably 35 years. And they still have a major short position. One of the guys I read, he describes it as an event that has happened never times before. Like it's never happened before that this is going on. And I want to talk to where we find ourselves now in the silver market. A lot of people don't believe in manipulation, but they've got all sorts of evidence. And then we got Department of Justice with their RICO inquiry into J.P. Morgan and precious metals.
Yep.
There's all sorts of evidence suggesting that the commercial banks and the central banks lean in on the paper derivatives market. And so much so that, you know, we have a short position of over 1 billion ounces today, okay? Outstanding open interest in silver of over 1 billion ounces. We mine about 900 million. Only a part of that is supposed to go to investment. Mm-hmm. Most of it's supposed to go to industrials. These guys that are trading the derivatives, it's all investment, okay? They're not doing anything for anybody physical that needs it for industry. And they're basically hung up here. And the one feature that I want to go to is when a group of players acting in concert has been the seller for 35 years. And all of a sudden they realize, oh my God, the game has changed because people are demanding physical. As an example, the ETFs, I think yesterday, added 6 million ounces of silver. The ETFs alone. We only mine 2.5 million ounces a day, and it's supposed to be used for industry. The demands on COMEX go up almost every day for physical.
Yep.
So these guys were not expecting to have to deliver physical metal, but they're short. And isn't it interesting that when someone who's been suppressing the price all this time, he has to become the buyer, who's the seller?
Right.
There's no seller left. The seller was the bank. The seller's you who's trying to buy it. Am I surprised to see that silver has had 2 days it almost went up to $2 this week each day, and another one $1. No, I am not surprised. Okay, in fact, in my own account on Monday, and I actually was taking the advice or following Ted Butler. Ted Butler said that on Friday when he read it, he went in and bought out of the money calls on the SLV. Well, I went in and bought out of the money calls on the SLV on Monday morning, and the people that understand it, of whom there's very few. So, for example, the people at GATA understand what's been going on. Ted Butler understands what's going on. Andrew McGuire, yourself, myself, another fellow I'm going to talk to later, Alistair McLeod, knows what's going on. And so there's not many people are looking, well, they're buying it because of negative interest rate. Yeah, that's all fine. Okay. We have a situation in silver like we had in oil not that long ago, where some guys caught people going the wrong way. Okay.
Yep.
Now it's in reverse. We have a bunch of silver shorts going the wrong way. And I suspect that some of the people that were in the cabal are now on the other side of the action. And they're also buying. When these commercial people know that they got somebody, man, they just lay the lumber on. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see dramatic things happening. And let's just go to the extent of what could happen in silver. I've mentioned many times before a group called the Technical Traders, Christopher Mullen.
Yep.
And he wrote something that was sent to me on Monday or over the weekend, I guess. And I'm paraphrasing now. But he suggested that, sort of beginning, I guess, on the Friday, starting last Friday, that in the next 30 plus days, that silver would go to $33 to $35. Now, here we have a week under our belt. Gee, that looked like a pretty damn good projection, didn't it?
He's pretty good at what he does.
We're more than halfway there. We're more than halfway there already. And he suggested that gold's going to go to $2,300. But he said it doesn't end there. He said our target for gold is $3,350. Just remember this, folks. $3,350. World changing.
Yeah.
And his target for silver is 75 to 85. World changing. And this is going to happen before the end of 2020. Now get your head into it.
Wow.
Before the end of 2020. Imagine these price levels and what was likely to happen. Now, I'm going to go to a fundamental thing for silver, okay? You know and I know that silver typically in its 5,000 or 6,000 year history traded 15, 16 to 1 to gold. We're in the mid-70s now. We were at 125 on March 23rd, the bottom of the silver price. Why? I think it's going back to 15 to 1. Why do I think it's going back to 15 to 1? As Keith Neumeyer says, the production of silver 8 to 1. In the ground's mineralogy, it's 12 to 1.
Yeah.
The buying of silver coins versus gold coins would suggest, like the dollars going into silver versus into gold, it's probably like 5 to 1
Yeah.
today. You can't go 5 to 1 when the values are 77 to 1, okay? Now, in terms of the 15 to 1, I want people to think about this. One of the ways that you make a lot of money, and which is something that I have done, you see the picture ahead of time, and you react to it. And what I'm going to suggest is with gold at 2,000, that says the price of silver should be $166. Okay, let's just go with it, okay? Imagine, and you say, well, that's ridiculous. It might be ridiculous, but what if you miss it? And what's the upside? And did you pay anything for it? Did you pay $1 for this? No, you didn't. You're not paying anything. The stock market has not nearly adapted to this. Look at, for example, I was going to discuss Discovery Mines later, but I'll do it now. There's a company that says they have 1 billion ounces of silver resources. And the price of silver goes up like $5 this week, so he's got $5 billion more of value.
Yeah.
And his market cap's under $500 million, and it hardly did anything this week.
Right.
You're not paying for this. You're not paying. How about $166? That's $166 billion. Are you paying anything for this when his market cap is under 500?
Yeah.
No, you are not. It doesn't matter whether the 166 is right or not, although it's more likely to be right, because you're not paying for it yet. You didn't even pay for the increase in the price of silver this week. Nobody's paying for the increase in price of gold this week. Stocks have been sort of non-performers. Anyway, I just think we're going to go back to 15 to 1. If the price of gold is 3,300, what's that? $200 over. 300. Put that in your pipe and check it out and see how you could make a life-changing difference to your financial well-being going forward. So
excellent.
To me, it's all about silver. Okay, and I said it so many times lately, and I think these silver stocks are going to go crazy.
And what Eric referenced, the Commitment of Traders report, it's a summary report, comes out late every Friday from data taken on Tuesday, of course, so it's already 3 days old, so you can't really trade off of it. But it gives you some idea of where the speculators are and where the banks are. And last week, with price up $2.74 during the reporting week, the banks that are listed as commercials in the kind of combined report went long 6,000 contracts and covered 8,200 shorts. That's the thing. You can find that at cftc.gov. Eric, on the shares, though, a lot of frustration and grinding of teeth because the shares are still, to me, it almost seems like nobody's buying it. There's still just like a finite pool of money in the shares, and people come in, they see the earnings, and they go back out, and then they come back in when the earnings are pending again. I mean, at some point, we've got to get kind of a speculative interest to really start flowing in. I don't think we're seeing it yet.
People can't stand making money. You know, somebody's up 50%, they think it's the world. Well, it's not the world, okay? When the gold stocks went up in 2000 to 2011, they went up 1,700%.
Yep.
1,700%. When you're making 50, man, you're making nothing versus what can happen here. We've already seen stocks that have gone up 500 and 1,000%. And yeah, I guess a lot of guys are tempted to sell them because they're in the chips here. But when you look at the economic proposition in front of you, you realize, oh my God, there's a lot more upside here.
Yeah.
I put a kind of blind bids for about 7 silver stocks yesterday. Some of them I've never even heard of before, but they had silver and they were trading at garbage market caps. And I said, fine, you got 30 million ounces of silver and your market cap's 5 million. I'll buy 20% of your company. Thank you very much. I hope you have it. And we'll see where it goes. Because I'm imagining the stock can go up 20, 40, 50, 100 times.
Could you
get in there, baby?
And you know what? You're reminding me of something you told everybody, I mean, at least a year ago, 2 years ago. I remember this came up a couple of times when people said, you know, Eric, you've got all this information at your disposal. Do you have a better batting average than the average person? You know, you diversified all these different things. And you said, well, to remind everybody, you said, no, I don't, but I'm smart enough to know when I got a winner, I don't just bail out.
You got to stick with your winners, okay? One of the great things that happened to me, of course, I had a big winner from 2011 to 2016, 17 in Kirkland Gold, which went against the grain of everything else. And it was fairly easy, by the way, and I explained it many, many times in public forums what was going on there. And I'm going to tell you, I have a deja vu all over again about silver. I see exactly what's transpiring here. Very clear to me. Now, I get a lot of help from these other experts for sure, and it sort of reinforces, then if somebody comes along technically says it's going to 33 to 35, okay, here we go. My thinking says it's going there and way beyond there, so fine, I'll play it.
Where and you always mention too, when you get a winner, you keep going. You don't just, it's like the people, everybody touts Tesla going from 300 to 1,300, but the only people that made $1,000 a share are the ones that held it the whole time. They didn't try to trade in, trade out, make $50 here and that kind of thing.
It's funny. I can give you an example of a stock I bought probably a year ago, year and a half ago, and it was Jaguar, okay, and I paid 8.5 cents for it. And it was sort of on hard times. But I'm sitting here thinking, this price of gold's going up here. They're going to get bailed out. And, of course, maybe at that time it was $1,300 gold. Now we're $2,000 gold. They just reported their earnings. They earned 3 cents U.S. They're probably earning at a rate of 4 cents this quarter because the price is up. So they're making 16 cents US. It's at 21 cents Canadian, and the stock's at 67. So it's 3.2 times earnings. Thank you very much. I'll take it. And it's already gone up 9 times.
Yeah.
And that's 3.2 times earnings. That's what can happen. Price is the important thing. Price generates profits. There's no cost to the price going up.
That's
other
right.
than your taxes, but at least the rate stays the same typically. So you got to get in early and you got to stay the course. It's tough for all of us. I mean, I see lots of volatility. I get the pains in my stomach too, but normally if you got to figure out what should happen in the intermediate term, you'll be okay.
I know you've got some stuff you got to do this morning, and we need to get to some of these stocks that have been sent to us for your discussion, but anything else on your mind before we get there?
No, I don't think so. Oh, I want to say one thing. I want to quote Alistair McLeod, who wrote an article. He's with Gold Money.
Yep.
And I just want to give you the last paragraph of his article. This man writes so well. I mean, I just love reading his stuff.
Yes, he does.
Okay, so his last paragraph says this. This being the case, a gathering stampede out of paper currencies and derivative contracts into physical bullion has just started. Unless it is somehow stopped, it will destroy paper markets and with them the banks that have benefited from them over the last 40 years. The acceleration of the destruction of fiat money will gather pace in the next few months, and anyone who spouts macroeconomic nonsense instead of acting in the face of these developments will end up with nothing.
Yeah.
Man, that's a brutal conclusion. End up with nothing. Bear that in mind, folks, when you're making that choice between the stock and the physical asset.
And those banks and their traders may be mean and sometimes criminal, but they're not stupid. You know, they can see what's coming.
And they'll go after each other. You don't kid yourself.
Well, that's true, too.
One group of bankers has the other group of bankers pinned down, man. Look out.
Like any other group of predators, like a pack of hyenas, you know. If they're hungry and there's a herd hyena, they're going to go after the herd hyena, too. All right, my friend. Thank everybody for sending in questions. We had like 70 some odd submissions this week, and obviously we can't go through all of them, but I know there's a handful here that we want to get to, from Jaguar to Spanish Mountain, Discovery Metals, Brixton, and even Abra Plata this week. So Eric, I'll just let you take it from there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a lot of these have, certainly the last three have silver in common, and it was announced I bought another piece of Abra Plata. It was announced this morning. I'm just going for the silver content down there and the likelihood that they can have a very large increase in the resource. I mentioned Jaguar because it's so cheap on earnings. Spanish Mountain is another company that was just announced. I put a further investment in it. And I'm kind of hoping that the market, instead of focusing on the plan that the company has of developing, I think it's about 1.5 million ounce resource, maybe with the price of gold going up here, and maybe targets are reached, that the former resource calculation of 10 million ounces comes back on the table. And just imagine 10 million ounces that, it could be worth $200 an ounce in the ground when the price of gold is $3,300 at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
That moves these stocks a long way. And I know it sounds incredible to think that, but that would make it worth $2 billion US. 2.6 billion. I'm not saying it's going there, and this is not investment advice, but if you just give yourself a little room for thinking these things can happen, because you're not paying for it. You're not. But I wanted to mention another thing. When I'm looking for a company called Benchmark, and they said they had 57 meters at 1.9 grams of gold and 91 grams of silver. Eric says, 91 grams of silver, the equivalent to 1.9 grams of gold, would have grams of gold if it goes to 15 to 1. That seems like a hell of a deal to me, because I think it's going to 15 to 1. And so when you're thinking about it, start converting the silver to gold. In fact, in the case of Discovery Mines, the 1 billion ounce resource of silver at 15 to 1, now get ready for this, is 72 million ounces of gold. Now, Craig, how many guys have 72 million ounces of gold?
Phew.
Like none.
Yeah.
Nobody. Maybe the combined Newmont Goldcorp does, but before the merger, they didn't. Barrick didn't. Goldcorp, nobody did. Nobody. It tells you what could happen. So we'll see.
Yeah.
What other stocks am I supposed to be talking about?
Spanish Mountain and we got Jaguar.
I got Jaguar and I got Spanish Mountain. And, Brixton. One of the reasons I bought it is because they had two silver plays. I actually forget. I think one's called Hog Ranch. I'm not sure that I described that properly. There's another one up in Canada. Even they're drilling up in Canada. I think it's Thorn Project. Had a lot of silver in it. And of course, I could go through the whole 15-to-1 thing all over again. But those things can become, any guy with silver could become incredibly valuable. So that's, I'm sure, going to do better.
And, I had
Any
a couple
other names?
Well, we had a couple questions this week, too, about is this you or, I don't think a lot of folks realize that you're doing all this from a laptop in your rocking chair now that you're retired. Can you just explain that to them again?
Well, you get a view. There's results come out every day. Jaguar reported overnight. There's 3 or 4 other companies that would have had drill results that I cared to look at. I actually asked help from some of my guys in the brokerage.
But Eric, my question is, these aren't Sprott Inc. purchases you're talking about. This is just you personally.
No. Yeah, well, there's a difference. Sprott Inc. does their own thing in terms of investing and lending and so on, and I do my own thing, and they're totally different. And okay. I know there's a lot of confusion sometimes when they say, well, Sprott's a shareholder, and sometimes it's not Eric Sprott. It's Sprott Inc. Not that I'm distinguishing between the two, but I'm more of a speculative buyer looking for a very, very outsized return.
Yeah.
Whereas most people tend to be a little more conservative and would much rather get the more certain return, but way lesser than what I might try to get.
Right. Well, all right, we're getting late. Anything else on your mind before we wrap up?
No, it's all about the silver here, and everybody should watch it. I do the statistics on the open interest every day, and how many people are putting in new contracts to take physical delivery to COMEX and watching the ETFs every day. And, man, there's nothing that isn't working in silver. So notwithstanding we get these days, we had one last week, we talked about it last week, where silver went down by, I think it might have been $3 or $4 overnight, like in a 4-hour time period. And I said, they're just running the stops here. And then sure enough, the silver price went right back up again. Very substantially. But the boys can still play in the market over the very short term. But we have to focus on the long term here. Yes. And the long term is not going to be that long if our friends at Technical Traders are right. It could be very, very dynamic.
That's absolutely right. And I just want to tag this on as we wrap up. Everybody, it's fun to watch the shares and you see them move every day, and we know about the leverage and we get a lot of questions about it. But again, we're talking about silver going up, okay? And at the end of the day, that's what you want to have. We know with silver what you have, especially when you hold it in your own 2 hands or in your own safe or buried at the bottom of a lake. SprottMoney.com is where you get your physical silver. We'll even store it for you. We're going to redo the website here soon. It's going to make it a lot faster and easier to use. So make sure you stop by SprottMoney.com. You'll find all kinds of great deals, especially on Canadian maple leaf silver coins. So be sure to stop by SprottMoney.com or just call us at 888-861-0775. Eric, I wonder what prices will be next Friday. We'll just have to see.
Well, it's interesting to think that silver's gone up so much this week, and I know some people get concerned about paying the premium. When you're paying the premium, which might be as much as $4 these days, just to have in the back of your mind 15 to 1, $166, $75, $85, some number that says to you, I can't miss this.
Yes.
Enough said.
And every ounce that you take delivery of, whether it's gold or silver, is one less ounce that the banks can use to wriggle their way off the hook. So you're contributing to the upside when you do it. Eric, my friend, thank you for your time. I hope you have a great weekend.
Should be fun. All the best, and good luck investing to all our listeners.
Yes. And from all of us at Sprott Money News, at SprottMoney.com, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again next Friday.